I spent $9,000 for honeymoon brother and his fiancées only to at a family dinner he called me a loser. I laughed and told him I wouldn't pay their rent anymore and walked away that he begged me, but a week later, I spent $9,000 on my brother and his fiancée's honeymoon and didn't even get a thank you. That's not even the beginning, just the part that made me stop pretending we had anything resembling a healthy relationship. My brother Kyle is 3 years younger than me, and somehow, since our parents died, I've become his unofficial ATM. Rent, car repairs, credit card debt, even his dog's vet bills. When Kyle needed something, he called me. And I, like an idiot, paid. At first I told myself it was just until he got back on his feet. Then I told myself I was doing it for the family, to keep the peace. But deep down I think I just kept expecting him to act like a brother again. Instead, the more I gave, the more he acted like he was entitled to it. He didn't ask nicely. He expected. When he and his fiancée Hannah got engaged, I paid for the whole wedding. Not just the deposit. The whole thing. I even paid for the open bar because Kyle said it would be a shame if they couldn't afford it. Then came the honeymoon. They wanted to go to Bali. They didn't have the money. You know how that ended. A few months later, at one of our monthly family dinners, we were all sitting around the table, my cousins, my aunts, some family friends. We were all having a few drinks. Kyle started telling a story about his job search, which had been going on for 2 years. Someone joked that he was living the dream. Kyle smiled and said, "Well, yeah, especially when you have a brother who's too much of a loser to spend his own money on anything." Everyone laughed. Like they were really laughing. Not an awkward giggle. Full-on laughter. And I just sat there. Not one person stood up for me. I didn't say anything that night. I didn't make a scene. I just left early and didn't go to the next dinner. I knew I had had enough. And I meant it. I didn't even write to him after that. Then came the first of the month. It was rent day. So it's the first of the month and I know what's coming. Kyle has to pay the rent. I've been paying it directly to his landlord for over a year. Automatic payment, same day every month, no questions asked. I should have canceled it a long time ago. But this time I let him get away with it. I didn't say anything. I just waited. 3 days later I got a phone call. I almost didn't answer it, but curiosity got the better of me. "What's the problem? Why didn't you pay the rent?" No congratulations. No explanation. Just like that. I was silent for a second because, to be honest, I couldn't believe how casually he said it. As if not paying the rent was somehow my fault. I said, "Have you forgotten that I told you that I don't pay for anything anymore?" He paused like he didn't know what I was talking about. And then he laughed. He laughed. "Dude, come on. Are you really mad about that joke?" It was just a joke. Everybody laughed. I said to him, "It wasn't a joke. You were serious. And I am not your wallet." He said, "Really? You're going to embarrass me for that?" That was it for me. I hung up the phone. I didn't wait for an answer. I thought that would be the end of it, maybe I could get him to find a job or something. But no, it was just the beginning. A week later I got a call from Hannah. And what did she say? Changed everything. Hannah called me out of the blue. I hadn't heard from her since our honeymoon. I figured she was just like Kyle, comfortable as long as the money flowed and quiet when it didn't. But her tone on the phone surprised me. She was nervous, a little shaky, not angry but just distant. She asked if we could talk. In private. She said it was important. I agreed, mostly out of curiosity. We met in a quiet cafe near where she worked. I expected her to try to play on my guilt, or maybe ask for money for the rent. What I didn't expect was what actually came out of her mouth. She started talking about Kyle. She said he had been different lately. He's angry all the time. He snaps at the slightest thing. Accusing her of things she hasn't even done. Then she told me something that made me sit back. It turned out that Kyle had been telling her for months that the money came from an inheritance. What? That I was just helping out while I traveled and lived off our parents' estate. That I didn't need the money and that helping him was just part of the deal. He even told her that I had insisted on paying for her wedding. That I had begged for it. She said she always thought it was strange, but she believed him. I asked her why she was telling me all this now, and she hesitated before saying, "Because I think he's hiding something." She went on to tell me that her landlord had turned up at the flat that morning. Not just with a late notice, but with documents. Kyle hadn't paid for 2 months. Apparently, he had redirected payment emails to a different mailbox, forged receipts to show Anna, and lied about it. It wasn't just that the rent hadn't arrived this month. It hadn't been paid for a long time. And here's the funny thing, he told her that I had stopped paying because I was jealous of their relationship. I realized then that I wasn't just paying my brother's bills. I was helping a man who had invented a whole false story about me to justify his laziness. And Hannah? She was just beginning to realize what a mess she was in. I didn't say much at the table. I just paid for the coffee and told her to look after herself. But later that evening I got a message from Kyle. Did you talk to her? Really? I ignored him. And that's when things started to spiral. The next day I started getting calls from unknown numbers. I ignored them at first, but one of them left a voicemail. It was her landlord. He said he was finally happy to speak to a real tenant who pays his bills and asked if I would pay the arrears or if he should proceed with the eviction. It was at this point that I realized Kyle had probably never officially signed a tenancy agreement. The flat had been in my name all along. I called the landlord back and asked for a copy of the lease. Sure enough, there was my signature, my name, and a notation that Kyle and Anna were approved subtenants. I had signed it 2 years ago when Kyle persuaded me to help him get started. I had forgotten that it was technically my flat. He had no real power there. The landlord said he didn't care who paid, he just needed someone to come up with the missing $3,600 or eviction proceedings would start next week. I told him I would not pay another cent. He warned me it would go on my credit report, not Kyle's. I told him to go ahead and do it. Then I texted Kyle, the lease is in my name. I just told the landlord I'm moving out. I just told the landlord I'm not renewing. You have 10 days. He was furious. The texts poured in like a cornucopia. First accusations, then pleas, then accusations that I had ruined his life. Then my aunt called. She wanted to know why I had thrown Kyle and Anna out on the street. He had already come up with a new story. He said I was angry about some petty joke and was trying to get even. I asked her if he had mentioned that I had paid for everything they had for 2 years. She paused and then said, he said it was you who suggested it. I didn't say anything. There was nothing more to talk about. That night Kyle turned up at my flat. He never comes uninvited, so when I saw him through the peephole I didn't even open the door. He knocked for 10 minutes. Finally, through the door, I heard him say something I wasn't expecting. Okay, fine. You want the truth? You're not the only one I lied to. It was a phrase that stayed with me. Because it turned out that he had not just lied to me or Anna. He had lied to a lot of people. And some of them were about to find out the truth. 2 days later, I got a Facebook message from someone I hadn't seen since high school. Her name was Jenna. She wrote, "Hi, I'm sorry to drop by out of the blue, but I think there's something weird going on with your brother. Can I ask you something?" I had no idea what she meant. Jenna and I had never been close, just friendly classmates, but I told her to go ahead. She sent me a screenshot of the Venmo request. It was from Kyle. He was asking her for $200 for an emergency car breakdown. He used the same phrase for me a year ago. She wrote, "He said you told him to contact you. That you don't have PayPal, so I should send him the money directly." I just stared at the screen. Then she added, "Did he also say that you were investing for him and some other people? And that we would all get the money in a few months?" My stomach sank. Apparently Kyle had been messaging people on my friends list. Old classmates, distant cousins, even my ex from college. I told them I was making small investments with good returns and was looking for people to help Kyle get into the game. Small amounts, $100 here, $200 there. Just enough to keep people from asking too many questions. And then he disappeared. He blocked their numbers after he got the money. Most of them didn't even remember. Jenna only contacted me because she ran into another girl she went to school with who said she had invested, too. I asked her to send me the names of everyone who had mentioned it. She sent me 5. By the end of the day, I had confirmed that Kyle had scammed almost a dozen people I knew. Friends, relatives, even a former colleague of our mother's. All of them had used my name. It made me feel sick. Not just because of what he had done, but also because all this time I had been funding his life while he was out there somewhere smearing my name. I tried to call him. He didn't answer. Then I did the only thing I knew would get his attention. I posted a simple status update on Facebook. If anyone has received any messages or requests for money from Kyle using my name or pretending to be involved, please email me directly. You may have been scammed. Within 24 hours my inbox was full. Kyle had reappeared. But this time it wasn't at my door. He showed up at my place of work. I was in the middle of a meeting when the receptionist told me that a certain Kyle was asking for me. I went out into the corridor and there he was, as if nothing had happened, acting calmly as if it was a casual visit. I didn't say a word. I just looked at him. He said he needed to talk. I said he had 30 seconds. He said I was making things worse, that I had no idea what was going on behind the scenes. That I had ruined his reputation by making this public. That people were turning away from him and threatening him. I reminded him that he was using my name to steal from people. He did not deny it. He just said it shouldn't have gone this far. That he just needed quick money and didn't think anyone would find out. Then he said something that, frankly, made me want to laugh in his face. I only did it because I knew you would have my back if things went bad. As if that would calm things down. I told him we were finished. Personally, financially, completely. And I went back to the meeting. At the end of the day, my manager called me into her office. She found out about this scene in the hall. I had to explain everything. Luckily, she was understanding, but said it couldn't happen again. I filed a police report that night. It was something I never imagined I would do to my own brother. But I included screenshots from Venmo, messages from people he had cheated, fake rental documents. I laid it all out. The detective I spoke to said that financial fraud between family members was common, but rarely well documented. I asked him what would happen next. He replied, "If we can get a few more people to come forward, we can open a case." I sent a message to everyone. I told them what I had done. I asked if they were prepared to corroborate it. Within 2 days, 7 people had written statements. 3 days after that, Kyle was officially under investigation. And the day after that, Anna texted me again. She had left him. But not only that. She told me something that changed the whole picture of what he was really doing. Hannah's message started with the words, "I've left him. I'm at my sister's." And then there was a wall of messages. I read them twice before it dawned on me. Kyle wasn't just lying to his friends and using my name, he was taking out loans in her name. A year ago, he convinced her to open a joint credit line, to build credit together, but instead of paying it off, he maxed it out. She only found out when she checked her credit history. She owed $12,000 and he had managed to make 2 payments. What was the final straw for her? He told her that if she really loved him, she would have asked me for help. He said I had a duty to the family, to clean up the mess he had made. She told him no. She packed her things while he was away and disappeared to her sister's house. She was scared, angry, ashamed, but also relieved. She said, "I should have seen it before. I just didn't want to believe that someone could be so empty." We talked for an hour on the phone. I told her she could give my number to the bank, that I would help her with the paperwork if she needed it. She said she would be grateful, but she didn't need the money. It was just a clean break. After that, the investigation accelerated. Kyle tried to call me several times, sent me several emails saying he would sort it out, and that he was just in a bad place. I didn't reply. Then he stopped trying. He went silent. 3 weeks later, my aunt texted me that Kyle had left town. No goodbye, no address, no explanation. He just left. He put everything he had in his car and disappeared. Some people are still trying to blame me. They say he's still your brother. That families don't turn on each other. But I realize that family is not what it seems. Family is not someone who takes and takes until there is nothing left. It's not someone who laughs at you in front of a room full of people after you've paid for their wedding and honeymoon. It is not someone who steals your name, your reputation, and your peace of mind. He might come back one day. I don't know. I'm not angry anymore, I'm just finished. And it feels like peace, to be honest.